Welcome to the Smokin Word. Welcome to the Smokin Word.
Yeah. Finally, not just because of you so much, but just because the way the world look at, I'm gonna put it in terms you might relate to. The chakras and the energies of the world just happen to line it up this way.
Oh.
Finally, I'm really, really glad you decided to, but I've been really wanting to get you on it. Steve, Reddy, everybody, Equal Vision Records, and a whole bunch of other stuff we're going to get into. But what's up, Steve? On the real, I'm glad you did this. And I just want to say this before we start. There's two people I've been chasing. Sofia Vergara, she hasn't been getting back to me, and you. So there's hope. I got hope, Steve.
Well, thank you. But I mean, I have no idea why anyone would want to hear me say anything.
No. Listen, I became a big fan of you as the years went on. Like I know about the label. Obviously, we all came up around the same time and stuff. But there's certain people that stuck out from what they did, coming from our world, and still lasting as long as they do in our world, which is it's all shark infested. It's so hard to come out of this world, no matter where you end up. And not only on top of that, lasting and then still lasting with the same soul and heart of where we came from, because that gets lost. And as when business and stuff gets bigger, that could get lost to some people. And what you and never did, and I say this because I've watched you from the outside, and I've always kept that. I'm a positive guy, but I'm ready to talk shit on anybody who's phony, who I feel is phony. You know what I mean? I don't care. Phony tough guy, phony whatever guy. I don't like that shit. And I always said this about you. I was like, crazy how people don't know. They thought, because the label and the styles of bands, and maybe that we were separate worlds, because maybe like, the Meathead from New York was different than what was on the 108 label. And I'm going to get into the upstate Meathead that you guys were, because Meathead was involved in this whole thing. But somehow people thought it was a separate world. And I always felt the love from you towards all our, the bands, the Gorilla bands, the Meathead bands, it was never, and I always said that. I always kind of used you as an example. I was like, that's the era, what I remember, where everybody was into what they were into, but we were all under one umbrella. So you fascinated me in a lot of ways, you know what I mean? And I have questions forever. So I'm just glad you were able to do that. But before that, right now, I know you must have been working, because I know you're a workaholic.
Oh, I am at work. Yes. Yeah. I bought a building. I never owned a building for Equal Vision. And, we've been renting this place where we are in Albany for like 20 plus years, and then got new owners, and they really raised my rent. And so I started to look around for a place to purchase, and I purchased it. And so now I've been down there most of the week, like cleaning stuff, painting, just like laying, getting some stuff ready to get laid out. And then today's the day I'm in my office trying to get my office stuff done up here. So.
And this is something that I want people to know, because, you took something from making something for your friends, the label, like, hey, let's, let me make something, to put my friends out, and then seeing something and then working it. What made you want to do it this long? Because we know, especially from your side, as good as we all intended to be, when you're on that side of a record label, you have to be an asshole sometimes. I'm assuming, you know what I mean? So I see it sometimes. It's like, man, if I own the label, you got it. Sometimes I know how band guys could be, sometimes a little bit living on a fantasy, and sometimes a label might bring them down to reality, and they might look like, oh, they're just being an asshole label. And you being involved with a lot of these guys that were your friends, did it ever become a problem? Because, you know, you've done a lot of records with a lot of friends, you know?
I mean, sure. I mean, you know, like it's difficult to manage expectations. You know,
Yeah.
bands, you know, want to be big and maybe they deserve to be big. And maybe I do not live up to their expectations and somehow or other, we let them down. You know, you know, try to keep the friendship through it. And sometimes even if it gets rocky while it's happening, you have enough base there that it gets you through, like, you know, 4 or 5 years from now or something like that. We'll start talking again or something. But I mean, I haven't, you know, like I only probably have one band that I didn't really, you know, like I don't have a relationship with anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
Consider like, hey, you know, we're not. And some of the members we are, but like, you know, some of the main guys is like, no, I'm just not, you know, doing it.
Yeah.
You guys talking about?
Yeah.
Talking shit on Judge.
There we go. That's what I feel, a lot of positivity coming through. I might just go eat a salad and like do like people out. Yo, what's up, Mike? Yeah, no, we're gonna get into this too, because yo, shout out to you. Look at mad props for giving us a place to be able to do our thing, especially during the last couple of years. That was a lot of people, you know, did it because, hey, you know, hey, let me get online. You know, let me tell everybody we're going to do a, you know, a little, yeah, get in here, Mike. You know, we're going to do a little, what do you call it? You know, something good for the people. But it was a kind of that, you know, you do it because you felt like it was the thing in style to do during that 3-year vacation. I know for a fact right away, almost everybody in my close circle was like, yo, I'm at Equal Vision. I was like, what? And they're like, man, you know, they found me a spot. Yo, I'm lucky because blah, blah, blah. Like Mike, I mean, a lot of people, Mike or whatever. I said this many times. I said, fuck, if I wish I lived there because I'd be, yo, let me in, Steve.
Me too. That'd be great. I'd love to have you.
For real. And that's a really great thing. And I'm like to be able to do that is something, you know, we're lucky that we have people like you, because we have people in positions that can help that don't help. Let me just say it like that, you know.
I'm just going to say this because my wife's waiting and shit.
Yeah.
My whole fucking life was falling apart. I fucking hid it and held it together for as long as I could. Until one day the Judge was playing, Reddy is fucking selling our merch. And when I get there, he's like, hey, when you come up to Albany? And then that was it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No.
Health insurance. I'm living the dream now.
Yeah, you're like a real American. You see? Look who we got us.
So with the real boy right now.
Right there.
Dude,
No.
I just came back from Whole Foods, bro.
No, of course. No, for sure. I know that. I said that from Mikey to, you know, to my, all the mics and all that. I was like, and what I love again is I'll brag for you. I don't mind bragging for you, Steve, because you don't do the bragging. And I hear this from other people and I dig for this because I know when, you know, when people are doing stuff for the heart, you always did that. And I always felt that even in the past, like I said, your connection to the meatheads, you know, to the meathead of hardcore and the heavy side and whatever. I try to tell people, I was like, don't get that Krishna thing twisted. You know, the Cro-Mags were Krishnas. You know what I mean? Like Albany was, you know, the white trash Albany element never changed. Just maybe they were not going to church, but now they're going to a temple. They're still those same savages. I know Albany. I know that era. I know Wolfpack. I know that, and that's what but to me, I was like, that's what I loved about our world. It wasn't, nothing was separated in that way, in the way that it's in the title of what we are, hardcore music. You know, if it was whatever it was, if it was straight edge, it was the more aggressive, louder side of that. If it was Murphy's Law beer, okay, we're going to be louder and more about it. It was like the extreme of everything. And upstate, I remember back then, the straight edge was the stepping on head straight edge. This is the thing people forget about. I didn't forget about that because I got stepped on a lot by you fucking, or you skinny guys that were able to step on heads. How much of an animal were you, Steve? Because I know you had that animal in you.
I know the story.
Oh boy.
I'll say this, because you were, and not so much in the bragging, were you an angry kid?
Oh, You mean pre-hardcore?
Yeah.
I was not tough, but I got in a lot of fights.
Yeah.
I'd get my ass kicked and somehow managed to hold on to somebody or punch somebody and run or something. I don't.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, but I just came from a town that was like, like as a teenager, it was just like drinking and partying, and then going over to the next town and somehow or other, because they live 3 miles away, you're supposed to fight them at the drive-in or something like that.
Yeah. It's crazy. Exactly. That's what I was saying. And I was like, and this is what I try to tell people. Like now it became, it's different. Like I remember, like Jen, like Judge. This is why I loved hardcore music. Somewhere along the line, I know where the line is, but that's another story about it. Somebody goes, "Oh, this is a straight edge hardcore show," and I was like, "What do you mean a straight edge hardcore show?" Every hardcore show I went to had a straight edge band, sometimes an oi band. You might have had a crossover, but whatever. I was like, it just happened to be. I was like, wait a minute. And they were like, oh, yeah. And then there was some type of cross. I saw everybody. I probably saw more Gorilla Biscuit shows more than I seen. You got Judge the Super Bowls. You would pop up, play a couple songs. You kidding me? But I was like, somewhere along the line, it got separated where people weren't, allowed, not allowed, but I don't know, it got kind of whack, separated in that way. Where the hell did you find it upstate? Were you a metal guy first? Because I know the crossover was always with the upstate, upstate.
Yeah. No, I'm like the Troy Core, like Maney and Bob Riley. Like I'm 7-8 years older than they are.
Yeah.
They started coming to shows when they were like 13 or 14 years old. I liked Stiff Little Fingers. I like Gang of Four. I liked X. I used to like that. That kind of stuff. And I remember just like we had a kid that was my age that I hung with, had an older brother, 3-4 years older than him, that went to Union College in Schenectady. And he'd come home with this like new music and turn us onto it. And we're like, 15, 16 years old. We started listening to stuff like, like he's like, oh yeah, here's the Velvet Underground, here's New York Dolls and stuff like that. And then, I don't know, I hanging out with some dudes and they go to a record store and they picked up a Dead Kennedys record because they thought the cover was fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden like that. And then we in I guess 1981, I went to a Ramones show and at a community college gymnasium. And
that was before
they had a warm-up band, and it's just standing there, probably drunk and like watching the Ramones come out. And
crazy hearing you just say that. Yeah, I was probably drunk watching the Ramones. Like I want to be there. Like I mean, like
people started slam dancing, and I like panicked. I was like in the middle, like getting slammed, and I had no freaking idea what was happening. And I just like fighting for my life to get to the edge. And when I got to the edge, I was like, "That's the greatest thing that ever happened to me."
Yeah.
And so I got like just hooked. And then when I came to college in Albany, there was a scene, and really that's what I wanted, was a scene I never experienced. Like we had some friends that did the same thing together, because we did the same thing. But this was a scene of like different kids getting together to have a kind of just a social program. And I liked it, and it was small, but it was great. And then whatever, I was in.
What do you think it was about Albany? Was it the location in between spots, or a college town? What was it? Because throughout my years of touring, Albany was a spot.
I mean, well, in the beginning, it had a big like punk scene.
Okay.
There was some punks and they did some shows, and there was a couple of local bands that were good. And then all of a sudden, Dave Stein and Pam Lockrow started to put shows on. First they rented a little dance hall place, and JFA played there, and then they rented a VFW hall and started doing like bigger shows. And those shows, just like a big show then was like 30 people. I remember like DOA played, and we're like, oh my God, there's almost 50 people here. This is great. And Youth of Today played their second show ever in Albany. That's where I got to meet them. But it was supposed to be Ill Repute, Scared Straight, and Youth of Today, and Ill Repute and Scared Straight canceled. So there had to be 12 people there. That was just to see them. But we thought that show was great.
And the right person was there, right? Like that goes to show for these guys, people in bands. Yo, play your shit. You don't know who's out there who might be that connection, because you ended up being a link, to that for a long time. Mike, you remember both of you guys? You remember meeting each other?
Oh yeah.
Where was that? You were little.
We lived at Stein at the time, and we used to go up there to get a calling card so we could make phone calls on tour.
I knew of him before we knew each other.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
It was either his pit bull or Stein's pit bull that trapped me outside the fucking
That was mine. I gave him the Stein when I moved to the Krishna farm.
The dog just sat down in front of me and wouldn't let me move. I was scared. I was waiting for someone to come out and save me.
You're like, save me. Oh yeah, you guys were your dogs back then. You, Roger, all you guys. It was somewhat right. It went from like the New York, the Albany, and then Canada. Oh, you guys were all the dog guys. I remember, it was a big.
Yeah, Roger helped me. I got him as a puppy, and Roger told me the ropes, how to try to raise him right. Yeah, and then now you're hearing the punk thing, because I didn't know Albany was a punk time. I always knew it was had underground music, because as long as we were touring, I was like, man, Albany's always been a spot. It was the Albany and then the Vermont, and I used to be like, oh, it must be a college thing or whatever. And also in between going to places. And I was just talking about Wolfpack the other day. I literally was saying, I was like, I actually forgot that could be part of this conversation. I'm like, I never said yes.
I was an honorary 5-0 for a day. I'll just say that at one point at one of the shows in the back. I loved it. I was just like, what I love is throughout the years, even with that, like I try to tell people, if you were really a part of this, you don't have to go to shows or whatever, but how could you not be intrigued if you're walking by something and something's going down right on the same block that's like a little hardcore show? Why wouldn't you let me take a walk just to see? Let me look at these kids. Right. It's like, I don't know. And when I would see that, some of the OGs stop by just to see what's going on, because I know what it is. I used to love it, because I was like, man, you can't get rid of that feeling. You know what I mean? It's like, we could all say, we're into new things or whatever, but how could you deny all the time we spend with each other? This music, I don't think more than any music, I think it's more relationship based. You know what I mean? I don't think no other music has the relationship you have with your friends that listen to it mean as much as the music you're listening to. No other music scene. This shit does. It's all about, all right, what? Sticking by your friends. Okay. Yo, you hear this? It's always mainly about, you wouldn't be singing about that if you didn't have the one other freak that, you wanted to sing to. And I was like, yo, a big part of this is that. So how could you lose, these people that you had so much love for? You could lose contact. Shit happens. But I mean, unless real beef, it's something like we all shared something special. I always said the hardcore scene is like being an X-Men. We have special, a superpower. Like when you see a hardcore kid, I don't care. I'm not talking about, you know what I mean? I ain't talking about a circle shirt, a Bad Brain shirt. That's anybody has that. You see a Judge shirt, you see a Raw Deal shirt, you see that, you like, oh shit. It kind of gives you, if you're in the weirdest place, you're like, that's, to me, I'm like, that's where I feel like, yeah, I'm a proud hardcore kid, and this. And I try to tell people, because since the music is so new, punk rock is still new and hardcore is still new, they still try to pin it on some little kid music because it's youth based. And I'm like, you forget that you could people under the age of 18 could only do so much legally, that you need people that are grown up to help these things happen. Do you understand? There was always labels behind it. There was always, not everybody was 15. Behind it, it was people that loved the music, loved the idea of the music, and we're writing the book now, not us, but AF, you guys, look at Judge back playing shows. Look at these are the guys that they said, oh, they try to say that these guys, these bands were only good, for 4 years in the 80s. Yo, we're in 2024. There's
True.
look how is it going.
That's how good they were.
Yeah. Crazy.
And that's how good of a time it was.
I still think the best time I have, period, is like when Gorilla Biscuits plays and we all get in a van together. Those fucking road trips are better than the actual fucking show themselves.
Oh, yeah, the shit talking. That's like, I tell people, if you could put these little, flies with microphones, because I know Siv's a shit talker. I talk mad shit with Siv. I could go out with shit, bro. We're gonna
hold back.
We're gonna have a doo-doo podcast one day. We're just gonna talk shit on everybody. We're gonna hold up like cards with the names and just talk shit. Stigma, we used to do a game with Stigma. He goes, we'll be in his apartment. It's like the little apartment. He'll turn off the TV. He go, okay, let's talk shit. Pick somebody, and you pick somebody, and then we just gotta going on him. But and then what made so these guys what. I know you started the label because it was Youth of Today, right? Was it for Youth of Today?
I mean, like the first label I did a label. Dave Stein and I did a label, and combined effort, we put out this like Albany style 7-inch with like Wolf Pack and a Troy band and a couple other Albany bands, but then I joined the Krishnas. Like I went on that Youth of Today tour, and when I got back, like Capo and I just moved in the temple, like I was just done, and I kind of moved in. So, but he went on and put out like the Beyond record. He did some Absolution. He did some good stuff. But I kind of knew like from getting it going, like what it meant to do it. And then when I lived on the Krishna farm for years in Pennsylvania, like I was pretty happy, but then when I hooked up with my wife, like I realized like I got to do something and get some money, and so like I went to Philadelphia where Capo had started Equal Vision before me. They put out one, a couple of Shelter 7 inches, but they didn't have anyone to really run it. Like they pressed 1,000 7-inches, sold them, blew the money. Just like that kind of thing. So I came in and started doing it, and then finally they're like, "Hey, you just do this," which was the awesome gift because like I started a record label with Shelter and 108, which were really popular. So it's like I got off to a really good start, and then was able to parlay it kind of luckily from there.
Now let me ask you this: obviously you're rolling with them, so you find the Krishna stuff. It was with those guys you found but what was like what you think was that final thing that you said, all right, yo, I'm moving now, I'm taking it to the next level? Because there's a lot. I had boys that were Krishnas, you know what I mean? Right. They were like Krishnas. Maybe they had, they read the book for a day and they didn't smoke PCP for an hour, and they were like, you know what I mean? But then just taking the next step. Like
Mike and I share an early on Krishna experience together.
I grew up in Tawaco, where we used to sleigh ride down this hill at Camp Dawson. Christians came in and bought the house on top of the hill. Wouldn't let us sleigh ride anymore. So as little kids, we were like, "Fuck these Christians." Then I get into fucking punk rock and hardcore. I go to the city. I'm like, "Holy shit, the Christians here will kill you." They'll rob your sneakers and then they'll kill you. So I'm like, what the fuck are these? The Christians in Jersey are so nice. On the Lower East Side will fucking steal your sneakers.
Especially those Troy Christians up there.
We were at we weren't together, but we were at the same show at the Jane Street Rock Hotel, and all of a sudden, like there's we just hear screaming, like yelling, and right, like probably 10 feet away from me. I think Eric Casanova is on a stair and he's hitting somebody on the top of the head, and then they pull him apart, and then he starts screaming, "You ain't the supreme controller. You ain't my guru." Like all this like Krishna word stuff, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on?"
The funny part about that is I was standing right there. I didn't know him yet, but I was standing there because fucking Casanova. And I think Elroy was there, and they were dusted. And he was fucking going. He was like, You did not make me. You were not. And I'm like, I don't know who this white kid is, but he's gonna get it.
Yeah.
He's not leaving Jane Street tonight.
You're like, I don't know, but I'm coming back to the next show. This is fun, right? Like,
yeah. So like we thought. My first impression was, I heard some George Harrison song where they sing Hare Krishna, and then I know these guys that have these cool neck beads, and they stand on the stage and fuck people up at Rock Hotel.
yeah. You're like, yo, I want in, whatever. I want in. And because in our music, a lot of people fall into, but there's people that take it again. Also, like some of those guys, some of the youth today, they take it to the next level. You know what I mean, and whatever. So it was like, and then you moved. You said the farm was in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. I mean, like when we got back, Capo and I both moved into the temple in Brooklyn. In downtown Brooklyn.
That was big. That's another thing people don't understand. Like, even if you weren't into Krishna and being in the hardcore scene, especially in New York, you knew about the Krishna temple, because a lot of people there was a spot for people to stay at also, and ate also, that were involved in the music. So we always had Blood Clot or somebody coming through, like, I'm going to the temple. There was always somebody, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's how we started. Actually Stein got me a book off the subway, A Higher Taste, because I had like vegetarian recipes in the front. I'd just become a vegetarian. It was probably like 1987. And it had some philosophy in it also. So I read it, and it was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I sent away for another book. I got it and read it. And then I went on tour. And I didn't know Capo, because I had been friends with Capo, but then we had a few years where like he was a little bit wacky and we weren't together, so much. But I was friends with Purcell. Purcell was like, hey,
everybody.
I was supposed to go on tour. I was supposed to go on tour with Underdog. Like, that was my summer plan. I was going on tour with Underdog. It was like Arthur, Russ, Dean, and then Youth Today had got signed a deal with Caroline and got a van, and the van blew up on their first road trip, and they had this 3-month tour booked, and I had a van, and they said, hey, can you come? And so I called Richie and told him, he said, yeah, go ahead, do it. And so then I drove the van to New York. Like, this is 3 days notice, picked him up, and we went on tour for 3 months. But like, Capo had gotten into Krishna. And so like we talked, and then every city we went to where there was a temple, we slept at the temple. Like, those dudes slept at some kid's house. Yeah. And we slept at a temple and stayed there. The first one we slept over at was Miami, and they had like a restaurant and stuff like that. And we just met somebody, asked some questions for like, a couple hours, and just like go to the next city. And if that had a place, go there and stay. And when we got home, we're like, hey, let's do it.
Yeah. No, that was the one good thing that was cool about that. Like, you were able to travel. If you were in the Krishna circuit, like, you were able, there was pit stops along the way to get you to where you had to go. You know what I mean? And that's a good way with music back in the day, was able to travel. Again, I used to meet guys from the West Coast. They used to come through, and they were like, same thing at CB selling stuff. They were, Christians in a hardcore band or whatever. And I used to be around it. I used to see it all the time. So it used to always bug me out. Now you come out, you took over the label. How long into there you think into doing the label where you were like, okay, I could do this full time? Like, because I know it's a lot of people try and a lot of people do, but it's a passion of love that doesn't always work out for everybody, especially coming from our world.
I mean, every day I wake up thinking today's the day the bubble breaks.
Yeah. No, I know that it's one of those, but like, where like, you come out, you start, they say, okay, take this over. You start kind of digging in. Now you start bringing your own work ethic and start like, let me start building. Like, you think the label's officially out about so many years now? You're like, okay, I think I could do this and see my, I could see this.
I'll tell a good story. So we went on tour, Shelter in 108. I don't remember what year, 91 or something like that. 92 maybe, because it was just like the reunion. But it was huge. We took a school bus with all these kids that wanted to be like, we're into hardcore, but we're into Shelter, but into kind of Krishna too. So like took like 20 kids on the tour with us, and it was freaking great. It was like a great, I mean, had some breakdowns, all the normal tour stuff, but we had a good time. And when we got back, like I was living in Philadelphia and my wife was in school in New York. And so like all of a sudden the tour ends and then we don't see these kids that came on tour because they weren't ready. They weren't going to move into the temple. Like that's a big commitment.
Yeah.
You got to be able to say, hey, I'm thinking making the jump, and not everyone can do that. So then I was like, oh, this isn't so good with me being married and my wife in New York and me in Philadelphia. Why don't I get a place in New York and some of these Christian guys can move in? And so that's what we did. And like a month after that, Shelter signed a deal with Roadrunner. And I was like, fuck you very much, like seriously? Like, and then 108, I did a 108 record and they kicked my wife out and they put it out on Lost and Found. And I was like, ah!
Yeah.
So I got to say, big thanks because I want to be here. The first band I did was Shelter. Or not Shelter, Shift. I mean, Shift. They took a chance on being on a Christian label. And the second band that did it was Crown of Thorns. And I was like, thank you. And one of my favorite records of all time. I love Train Yard Blues. I loved it. When you guys would come to the apartment, I'd be so psyched.
I was going to say that because I remember going to the old apartment. I would tell Kelly that in the city. This is why, again, I remember, the love that you have for our meatheads, because I know we ain't always the easiest and we weren't the most organized and all that, but we all meant well. We have our hearts were always there. And believe it or not, we do know who looked out for us. Believe me, the ones that we're still here on this earth. We've been around long enough to realize like that. So it's crazy. But that was the cool thing. You took it, you guys moved around, and I think that's what also maybe helped you stick out a little bit different. Like you guys were in the mix. It wasn't like just you guys were hidden there. You were in Manhattan, you were part of the scene up there in Albany. You had connections to Jersey, connect like not because the Underdog band, that Jersey, New York was kind of connected. So if you were in that scene and the stable of bands you were with basically covered all that. It covered Boston, Connecticut, Albany, Jersey, and New York. You know what I mean? And that's cool to be. And then you had again, and not being a tough guy label, but you know what I mean? But which was great. And then you had Crown of Thorns. When you put out Crown of Thorns, that's what I think was a big, like the cool point where it was like, oh, it's on 108. But it also didn't blink an eye, but it was cool. Like not till later, it was like, yo, they were on 108.
I was with Franklin was in 108 in Europe, and we were on tour. And the whole time he had the demo, and he'd play it, and he's making me say, "Oh boy, I don't know, that's like DMS shit." Like I don't know. But then I said yes, and then I met Isaac and everybody, and I thought they were great. Mike, I remember James Dijon coming to the house. I was like, oh yeah.
That's a different animal. But yeah, no, but sure, like, again, I'm definitely not, we're not the most finessed a bunch of mongrels, but we have big hearts, that's the thing.
No, it was great, and then Franklin left the band. And so like Isaac became my contact, and like I was like, he was great.
Yeah. And then, but that's what I mean. It was never, that's what I'm saying. What do we do behind, as far as if it's what sex you're in, what religion, it doesn't matter what you do. If you're friends with people and you like what you're doing it with, that's what I'm just saying. Nowadays, things could have been, it's just, I see you guys as was the cool thing, because there was other labels, if they were at one point a tough guy label or a straight edge label, that it was kind of obvious they weren't messing with nobody outside their own styles. So I liked it. Like the same thing, Epitaph took a chance on Madball, that one record. I like the idea of, they didn't expect it. Same thing, a Crown of Thorns on Equal Vision. Oh shit. And a Shift, a little bit, they're getting the new swag. Because I remember when the Shift kids, when they were coming out, like early on, I remember, right. Hearing the sound change, because I was already following, the Into Another's or whatever. Now I said, okay, this is our young kids doing that kind of thing. So I saw that whole thing come up. You know, so it was cool to see you, the label catch a variety of bands. That's what I was saying. I give a lot of props to that, to the label having a lot of variety in the lane you guys took. Obviously we get feedback from people. How much is brought to you and how much hunting you do on your own, like for that first hunting? Far
in the beginning, whatever you'd hear through the grapevine, which you kind of know people. So you hear, oh, so-and-so that has a new band, or you play somewhere and you see like, oh, wow, this is pretty good. So there, a lot of in the beginning was like people I kind of knew. Really, we were doing good. And then my wife, we lived in an apartment, like Lenny, Tim Owen from J Tree lived there. The Kevin Craig, the tattoo guy, like we lived in that apartment. But when my wife got pregnant, we're like, well, can we have a kid here? I didn't know what to do. Like we had no clue. So she wanted to be upstate. So we came upstate and had no idea what to do. And then it was just like really rough for a while. And then Shelter had played a show in Boston, and the kid that put it on, it was John LaCroix, and it turned into like this like FSU Shelter riot show. And so like from that thing, like I had met John, and then John started this band that I thought was kind of interesting because it was a cross between straight edge and football, 10-yard fight.
I remember.
I went and saw them, and they had put a 7-inch out with this other kid that I met, and I was like, well, what do you do? What's your plan? It's like, nothing. I mean, I'm sold out. Like, we want to just do this. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And so I gave him some money for the 7-inch, and then I just started with them. And from there, some other that kind of straight edge, like floor punch, hands tied, and things like that came along. And then the next spot was really lucky. Hands Tied had this bass player. He's Sean was his name. He's passed away, but Hands Tied kicked him out, and I felt bad about it. I really went to bat with him, but they had just decided like it's not working with him. So like I told him blindly, no matter what you do next, I'll just do it.
Wow.
And the next thing he did was a band called Saves the Day.
Well,
fucking changed everything.
Listen, you want to go to Vegas with me, Steve? I'll pay your ticket. Follow the bet on and which.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Wow. That's great. Wow. You see, hey, see you, man. We're gonna talk.
You're the best, bro.
You know what's up, man?
Well,
Definitely.
After I heard the lyrics, I understand why you didn't let me sing.
Okay, but listen, it's that track was for Mary Jane, but the rest is on some very positive, overcoming shit. So you could, it's equal opportunity. Mother nature for everybody. Peace out, Mike.
All the best.
Good deal, man.
But no, it's crazy. And you know what I wanted to get into, moving along, because you did so much. Did you expect the merch part? Because this is what I'm fascinated part, because I do, on my own printing and stuff. And it came out of being in a band, and you see how you could promote, and there's also an avenue. Did you expect the merch part? Obviously, it's always been a great avenue connected to music, blah, blah, blah. But to almost pass the whole label part, like, did you see it coming? Or did you think that beforehand? Or it kind of ended up that way? Because it's kind of crazy in a way.
I mean, the merch thing is great, because I know if I make $1 a shirt and I need $200, I got to sit there and print 200 shirts.
Yeah.
The record thing is, I put out a record. Yes, and I do that kind of press. Like, please become popular.
Yeah.
And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. But the T-shirts is more like kind of just like real honest. Here it is.
Yes.
These are $5 each. This kind of thing like that. So.
But man, what a great avenue connected to it. Like, you could still be creative. it keeps you around the music, you know, a lucrative, and also it gave you the position to give people work. You know what I mean? Like, to me, I really see that that's big. There's a couple people that did stuff that I saw. It was you. We have another guy, friend. He's something about you straight edge guys, and you know, some of you guys really mean that shit, and you Christian guys. But one of my other homeboys, he has Ohio Pie on his own. He hit me up on not on putting up a post. It was like, yo, I want to do a like a demonstrating my style pizza, like for the day. And I know you guys you bands can't play. I want to do a little something, man. I'm doing good. And
nice.
Yo, I mean, like, I'm getting goosebumps now because these people don't have to. They just love the band so much. And it came in handy. You know, it wasn't like, no, we don't need it. It was like, yo, thanks. And he made something, but there were certain people that I could tell he went out of his way to a lot of bands, not just his favorites, you know, the band's grinding. And telling them, yo, you come through, I got you. You know, there's a couple of our friends from Texas, the whole squad down there. They're like, yo, you come through, you know, they own a Mexican food spot. Yo, any hardcore bands coming through, we got you. And I'm like, yo, that's, you know, you still got to have that. You know what I mean? No matter, you know how it is. The same way I believe, you know, you got to throw it to the universe. You get it back, you know.
Right.
I believe.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I love. Like we haven't had, we've had people stay at our house. Your drummer Mike stayed with us forever. That was great. I haven't had bands sleep over for a while. Everybody I know is kind of like, you know, a little older or something like that. They want to they come to town. They either want to go home or they're not going to stay at someone's house. Yeah. But like when that was happening, I mean, we lived at that apartment in New York. I think we were there over a year before we had a night where it was just the people that lived there staying there. Yeah. We had someone sleeping there all the time. I don't even remember, like, Tim Armstrong came up to my wife whenever he saw us. He's like, yeah, thanks. I remember sleeping on the floor in there. And I was like, I don't remember. That's awesome. I don't remember it, but like, you know, people stayed all the time.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's the great thing now. And right now, I see you guys got some new bands. I saw some new music coming out, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we're signing new stuff all the time. Like, I've kind of like given the creative reins over to other people. So, I mean, like, you know, I had a really popular band, Chiodos.
Yeah.
They saw, you know, I mean, probably between the 3 records or something we did, we sold close to 1 million records.
Wow.
Great. When they played me their songs, I said, I don't even think these are songs. It sounds like 4 people bought 4 different things they worked on at home and just smushed them together. and then they blew up. And so I was kind of like, okay, I've lost my confidence for this shit. But like, if it's hardcore, if it's something like straight up hardcore, I still like it.
Yeah.
You know, and so that I'll go after. But like I have Dan Sancho. He's done the label for 20 plus years. You know, kind of been my guy. Gotcha. He's signing stuff, and you know, like they'll bring it to me, and I'll be like, oh, you know, this is cool. And we're trying to keep new stuff, and then we signed Yellow Card. We do some like, you know, reissue stuff and things like that to kind of keep it all going.
You did so you signed Yellow Card? I didn't know that.
We just did the last record, and we're doing another one. Yeah, we're like, you know.
Wow, I didn't know that because we toured with them with the Hazen Street back, you know, years ago. So that wow, I didn't know you guys did that.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I just had him on Good Morning America this last week.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's like a nice band, and it seems to all these bands are, you know, in all those genres, that like that tier of, you know, the little bit older bands now have a lane. If it's the thrash bands, the hardcore bands, like I don't know why. It seems like the you know, these lanes are like, they had a couple of these throwback you know, the bands like Story of the Year and Yellow Card, these shows, and they're like selling it out and big shows, and I'm like, wow, you know, people still, you know, want to see these bands, which is great.
Yeah, I think it was important at some time in their life. There was these bands are really important to people, and so it stays. They never get over it. You know?
Yeah, no, and you a man of many things. What's your goal? What's the Steve Reddy? Because you done a lot. I also know, and I'm gonna let everybody know. Fuck that. I'm gonna talk my shit. I know you an Iron Man a couple of times, and I'm gonna talk my shit, Steve. Let me talk it. Let me talk it for you. Because you know what? I learned something from the rappers. I always love rap, but they always were full of shit. But I learned something that I did love from Noriega, who has a podcast. He says, we got to start giving the people in our genre their flowers while they can still smell them, and you're a man who done a lot, from the scene, being, from a showgoer, being in a band, to a label, the merch, to helping bands, supporting, being in every genre, similar how a couple of us are still, not all of us, but there's a few of us still on this. But I look to a guy like you who's able to keep the integrity of the world we come from, but still, you're able to take your business, keep it honest, and you do a lot, even though you're quiet about it. Like, do you set goals for yourself, or you just like, what is it that you could say, like a little drop of knowledge you could drop me and everybody? Because really, you not only that you took a lot on your plate, but you've done good at a lot of things, a lot of big, hard things to do and stuff that you got to work at. Like, what are a little tidbit you could give us?
I mean, I wish I had a plan. I don't have a plan. I mean, my real plan is to, it used to be like, like I never thought I would make a living off of this. I just didn't think it was possible. I thought, like, hardcore is my life, but I got to have a gig, and so, like, when I was young and didn't have any overhead or something like that, I would do it. And then when it just kind of became a thing, and like, oh, maybe I can do this or maybe I can't, but like, I never had like some kind of plan. I mean, but at some point my focus became, can I take care of the people that are given so much to me by working here? And then that's my goal. Now they're busting their ass. Can I put myself in a position where they have a pretty decent life and that they're taken care of? Like, that's kind of the goal. And for me, like, I've far exceeded anything I would have ever imagined getting out of this. So, I mean, like, but I mean, I'm 58 years old now. Like, I do want to do more Ironman. I haven't done anything since COVID, and I want to do more. So I hopefully buying the building and getting that all, once I get that situated, give me a little more time to like kind of step away and do my own thing again. But yeah, there's no plan. I mean, if my kids don't want it, which I don't think they do, I'll figure out how to make some kind of like, communistic socialist business and just hand it off to my workers.
And you want to know what? I mean, we're going to end on that, but meaning you saying that you're the one guy I believe that shit from, that's where it got you where you at. And you worrying about the other people, because I have that problem also. I call it a beautiful problem, that sometimes we worry too much about people around us. But when it comes good, I think it really shows that it's worth it to be like that. We got to take hits for it, sometimes, for being that way. But I believe that. I believe you're like that, and it showed. And that's probably one of the greatest things I've heard, that you being, you giving props to you, trying to look out and, to do better for other people. And listen, I believe karma could carry you. Karma could be a bitch. Karma's all that, but I believe in karma. Steve, I'm glad finally got you on again. You got to tell everybody over there what's up. Shout out to you. Shout out to Equal Vision Records. Shout out to everybody over there. Shout out to every machine you have, because we needed people to work them during the whole COVID thing. But on the real, thanks for jumping on. I'll let you know when this comes out. Steve, keep doing what you're doing. Man, salute to you.
You're doing a great job. This is really I'm nervous. I don't think I have a lot to say, but look at this flew right by, and you did great. So
no, I'm glad now, because for real, I really watch it again. I watch, and I learn from you. I ask questions. Shout out to Kelly, because I've been chasing you for a while. Not that you've been hiding from me, but I've been telling Kelly, You think he would do it? You got to tell him. I don't really see him. And she always told me, if anybody, you always said you would do it. So I'm glad, again, big fan. I hope to see you guys in person,
That'd be great.
Yo, everybody, shout out. Go get everything he puts out, every t-shirt they got. Go see him win another Iron Man. He's gonna be representing Smokin Word TV. We're gonna sponsor you.
I'll have to get a tri-gear with that on it. So
I got you. I'm gonna make you some spandex, custom spandex for you. All right. All right, Steve. We out of here.
Man, great.
We out of here.
Peace.
Peace.
Good to see you.
Steve.